What most people do not understand is that in the US, if you look at the top 10 causes of death, at least seven of them are linked to nutrition. So I'm not saying it's causing them, but it's linked to nutrition. So, number one, heart disease. We know that has a lot to do with nutrition.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Nourished Inside Out. Today I'm here with Dr. Amanda Adkins today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, I'd love to know a little bit more about your background because I know briefly we were talking and you specialize in weight loss and really teaching people how to nurture themselves from the inside out so they can have a healthier future for not only themselves, but the people around them as well. So, can you take us back a couple years and tell us about what was the turning point in realizing you wanted a healthier future for yourself?
All right. So I always say it's more than a couple of years. It's more like a few decades. So my health journey for Inside Out actually started back when I was a teenager. So I was a freshman in high school, and we had to go through this presidential physical fitness class. This was in the 90s, and you had to weigh yourself initially. And I weighed 199 pounds as like a 14, 15-year old growing up in Indiana. And I knew at that point, like something clicked in my mind. It was like, you cannot continue on this journey. And I already knew that I wanted to become a physician. And I said, okay, I cannot be unhealthy telling people what to do about their health, right? Because I had that. I had a doctor that was not so healthy himself and telling us what we needed to do. So I decided at the age of 16 to become a vegetarian. And again, that was not a big thing to do in the 90s in Indiana. Now I'm in California. I'm sure they were doing that in California then. But, and then at the time, also, my father was a meat delivery truck driver. So all we had in the house really was like bacon, sausage, bologna, hot dogs. And I decided I wasn't going to eat those things anymore. And it wasn't like any like, oh, I have to do this because of my health or anything like that. I was just like, I want to lose weight. And I then went ahead and said, okay, then I want to be healthy for myself. Then fast forward, years of still being a vegetarian, going through college, going through med school, going through residency, all that still, not eating meat, maybe not eating the healthiest diet. I said I was a junk food vegetarian. But as I went on and then actually started practicing, finishing residency and everything, people started to ask me, what else can I do besides medication? Like, because I was like, we were told to, are taught to diagnose, treat, give the medications, and move on. We weren't really taught a lot about nutrition, even though I was starting to like learn about that myself for my own health. So people started asking me about that. Around that time, I started to learn about what was the beginning stages of lifestyle medicine. So, lifestyle medicine is a relatively new specialty that's out there. I believe they started around 2014, somewhere around there, as far as their board certification. Even though lifestyle medicine goes back, hundreds of years, but actually as a recognized specialty in medicine. And once I like learned about that, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is what I've been like working towards my whole life. And I just kind of like, oh, this is what I want to actually teach people to do to actually help with, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, those illnesses that ran in my family. And I just like, I have to get the word out. And it was just like, again, like looking back over like from being an obese teenager to learning how to take care of my own health to then learning how to then share that with others. Because before anyone asked me, I was just like, I'm just doing this for myself. I want to be healthy. I want to be around. So I'm like, 120 years old, still like hiking and all that kind of stuff out there. But then people are like, I want to learn that too. And it just became more of a passion of mine to actually share this journey with others.
That's really incredible. Thank you for sharing your journey and your story. I can relate with you coming from a small town because I'm from the Midwest as well. So, when you come from a small town in the Midwest, things like vegetarian or like holistic nutrition, it's not really a thing back then. It's more of a thing now. So I think that was really brave of you to step out and say, I'm going to do this, even if people around me don't understand, because it's going to make me feel better. And I think that's a huge defining moment of saying this, that you're dedicated and committed to a healthier future. So I really love that. How did your personal journey with weight and health challenges shape your passion for lifestyle medicine? How has that evolved over the years? Like, have you gone to specialize in certain areas or with certain types of people?
So yes, so I went from doing primary care, which is internal medicine, to now focusing purely on lifestyle medicine. Even though I was doing some lifestyle medicine in my primary care practice, I moved to focus on mostly women who have a diagnosis of prediabetes, diabetes, or high blood pressure. And again, people ask like, why did you pick those? I'm like, because that's what was in my family. So my first thing came to like I want to help myself and like my family members. And so then it just branched out from there. Like there are other aspects of that lifestyle medicine helps. And there's a lot of, physicians out there that's helping other types of chronic illnesses. But for me specifically, it was diabetes and high blood pressure. And when I say family, it was like my grandmothers, and they were so instrumental in like me, like growing up, really having like faith and loving, myself and loving the field of medicine because they're very encouraging. Neither one of them were in medicine, but once they knew I wanted to become a physician, they embraced that and like helped me to embrace it and really get me on this journey that's very hard but very rewarding. And so I wanted to really focus on disease states that had affected them, even though at this point in time they've already passed. But I'm like, if I can help someone else that's in that same position, it's like helping my grandmothers to like continue to live on in a way.
Absolutely. It's when the purpose becomes bigger than yourself and you want to help other people with your gifts and your talents. And I think that's such a beautiful, selfless thing to do. How much of an impact can nutrition alone have on preventing or even reversing chronic diseases?
It has a huge impact. And what most people do not understand is that in the US, if you look at the top 10 causes of death, at least seven of them are linked to nutrition. So I'm not saying it's causing them, but it's linked to nutrition. Number one, heart disease. We know that has a lot to do with nutrition. Cholesterol, the foods that we eat, most of the time is like highly processed, high in fat, high in sugar, high in cholesterol, high in sodium. And this actually wreaks havoc on our internal organs, especially our arteries, which we need to actually nourish our whole body. So if our arteries are all clogged up with all this gunk, then it can't get the nutrients that it needs because the I would say the railroad system is actually closed. Like you can't get things through, and you need that actually opened up. So if we do not actually change our actual eating habits, it is very, very hard to actually prevent or reverse these illnesses that are, astronomical in our US. So it's just like so much that's going on that if you make those little diet changes, that you'll actually start to see some changes in your overall health. And you don't have to necessarily become like 100%, I say like plant-based or vegan, but you want to move in that direction. And that scares a lot of people. And I tell them it doesn't have to be a scary thing. It took usually decades to get you to this point. But we can make, some subtle changes. And once people actually like dip in and they actually see how much change it actually makes, even before their blood pressure or their blood sugar changes, they start to have more energy. And just in that, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. It's like they come out of this fog and they're like, oh goodness, okay, it's worth it to keep on going. And knowing that nutrition plays a huge part in our actual health and well being is just sometimes eye opening for people to actually realize.
Yeah, that's so true. There's so much that goes into nutrition that I think oftentimes are overlooked. So thank you for sharing that because I'm a firm believer that it does play a huge role. What lifestyle changes have you seen that make the biggest difference for your patients?
So it's the nutrition.
Nutrition.
Oh, yes. So most of the time, um, people are like, "Oh, I've changed some of these things, and but I don't want to give up, one thing." And I tease my patients too because it's usually like something like bacon or fried chicken, right? And like whenever I talk about bacon, and I was like, I grew up with bacon, I understand, but it's something about people and their love for bacon that it just is hard to let go. And I was like, it's nothing nutritious in there for you. Like it's fat, it's cholesterol. Like I know it tastes good on the taste buds, but the rest of your body hates it. It's like, no, please do not ingest this anymore. But when people actually make those changes, actually eating less salt, less fat, less cholesterol, and when I say fat, I mean saturated fat, and more fiber, they actually see the biggest changes in their actual overall health. So we're usually fiber deficient in this country. Because we're not eating enough plants, we're eating more animal based products or processed foods that don't really have a lot of nutrients in there. And so when people actually commit to making those nutrition changes, they see the biggest bang for their buck. But I always tell people like nutrition is number one, but there's five other parts of lifestyle that actually play a role and they all kind of intertwine. But if you're going to pick one thing to change, I usually have people start with nutrition.
That's huge. That's huge. Thank you for sharing that because I think there a lot of times we think like, oh, there's this magic pill, but no, it's really in the small daily habits. And it does start with nutrition. It really does. For someone who feels overwhelmed by weight struggles or a family history of chronic disease, what's the very first step they can take towards change today?
So knowing that they have control and that their family history does not mean it's their own personal history. Because I was one of those people like, oh my gosh, I know this is going to happen to me. But I was like, no, if I change some things, because I see, what my family was doing, the foods that we had at our, holiday gatherings or our family reunions, I was like, this may be playing more of a role than our actual genes. And that's actually true that we say, I'll use not my old analogy, I'm going to use like a deck of cards. So we're dealt a deck of cards with our genes, but lifestyle is the way we actually play the game. So we can actually say, okay, I was dealt this, but I'm not actually going to use these cards this in this manner. I'm not going to eat, all that bacon. I always you have to use that analogy, or all that the fried foods, or a lot of like chips or anything like that. So knowing that you can take control of that, and that also that you don't have to necessarily give up all your favorite things. So a lot of people are like, I love to have, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so let's start with adding in more fiber into your diet, and not fiber supplements or fiber pills, actually whole foods. So eating more leafy green vegetables, eating more broccoli, carnivorous vegetables, anything like that that you can add to your plate and try to crowd out those other foods that may not be so healthy. Like you said, you like it on your taste buds, but the rest of your body doesn't like it. But actually adding in more of that fiber each and every meal, each and every day, can actually help you to start to feel better, and then use that internal motivation as you feeling better to continue to make other changes that may be a little bit harder down the road.
Something that you said that I liked is don't look at family history as something that's for you because it all starts with our daily habits and the things that we're doing on a daily basis. So I think I really love that you said, don't let your family history try to define you. That was huge.
Yes. And again, I tell people that all the time because I had to come to that realization also. Like, even though it's in my family, it does not have to be my story.
Wow. How do you help women stay motivated when the journey to health feels long and difficult? Because it's definitely a different mindset shift. So, how do you help people stay motivated and keep their mindset on track?
So from the beginning, I let them know this is a journey. You are never going to arrive to this perfect state of health on, I say, this side of Earth, right? Um, so knowing that you're going to make mistakes along the way, that you may even fall off track, but that's okay. because we actually learn things along the way as we're moving towards our health and wellness goals. And then once you hit a goal, you'll find that you're going to have another goal that you actually want to reach. And just knowing that it's a journey and not a destination, it actually takes off some of the pressure to be perfect, and to know that we all can fall off, but actually saying, okay, so if this happens and say a holiday is coming up, and I know that my aunt is making, this famous pie that she always has. And I was like, and that just pushes me over the limit. But if you actually know that you're going to, eat something that day, you can already have a plan for the next day to say, okay, the next day I'm going to make sure I eat, a full green salad. I'm going to make sure I drink, 75 to 80 ounces of water a day. I'm going to make sure I take a extra walk, something like that, that you actually have in place to get you back on track. And most women respond to that very, very well because, again, they don't feel like they have to be perfect all the time, and they can still enjoy some, things along the way. And to know that it's a journey and not a destination just takes the stress off, because we don't want to add stress, because that doesn't help in our health and wellness either. So that just it's just freeing to know. I know that freed me up to to say it's okay that some days are not that good. But to know that, tomorrow, or even if it's a week or so, you can still get back on track. And usually when you fall off track, you have to look back, over your journey and say, I'm further along than when I was, a year ago, or, 10 years ago, or 30 years ago, or whatever it is, because I know now how to get back on track.
Absolutely. It's really valid. It's a journey, not a marathon. And we're never I think we're so hard on ourselves as humans because we're our own worst critic that instead of taking time to appreciate where we are and how far we've come, we're always criticizing ourselves because we're always setting the bar higher. And when I understood that, I was like, wow, like I just need to sit down and just really appreciate where I am now. Like I always say, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be. And that's a beautiful place to be.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I use the football analogy because my husband loves football. I was like, you're probably not at, the 20-yard line. Maybe you're now at the 50. You're not at the goal, but at least you're not back at the 20. So for the football fans out there.
Absolutely. I completely agree. What misconceptions about weight, health, and disease prevention do you find yourself correcting most often?
Misconceptions. Let's see here. That weight is a complete picture. So it's just one aspect of our health and wellness. It is one measurement. And sometimes people look at it as like, oh, well, once I reach a certain weight, then I'm just healthy and I don't have to do anything else. Um, and I try to really come against that for people, because it's not necessarily a certain number on the scale that makes you healthy, but actually how your organs and your arteries and everything like that are functioning on the inside. So you can see someone that looks completely healthy on the outside, like thin, muscular, but what they're actually feeding their body is junk. And it may not seem like junk to you initially, but actually if you actually look inside their arteries, like it's full of cholesterol, and that over time and over the years they end up having like a heart attack or insulin resistance because of that. Even though their scale numbers looked perfect, it's not necessarily what's going on the inside. And that's the buildup of inflammation over time. This happens a lot with like athletes, like when they're younger, like they're eating anything, but because they're working out, well, how many hours? 15 hours a day, and then sleeping the rest of the time, like they're burning so many calories that it seems that it's good, but then they carry those nutrition habits over into when they're post athlete years, and it's not as healthy, even though they may not like gain a whole lot of weight. But because that inflammation that's been going on for decades kind of catches up with them, that it actually turns out to be, unfortunately, a chronic illness that actually manifests at that time. And then they believe that all of a sudden this happened, where it's usually not the case. A chronic illness doesn't all of a sudden happen. It's actually building up over time. And our bodies are very resilient. Like it can take a lot of hits before it actually just like I can't do it anymore. I've given you all I've got, and I'm like pooped out. Like I need you to actually nourish me to actually repair this to get back to this normal quote state of health that you actually been putting me through the ringer all these decades of life. So I like for people to look at that, what they're doing to their body over time, to know that it can actually cause harm over the decades and that it actually still can be reversed. As long as you're still alive, you can still actually do some things that can actually help with your health and overall well being.
Thank you for explaining that and diving deeper into it because it really is built up over time. And I love the way that you explain that because nothing just suddenly, like a chronic disease doesn't just suddenly happen like that. It's definitely in those little habits of nutrition, and it goes ties back into what you were saying on how it's a journey, not a marathon. So how are you treating your journey? Are you treating it with kindness and good nutrition and mindfulness, or are you doing the complete opposite? So I really love how you dove deeper into that. How has your own faith journey influenced the way you serve your patients and community?
Yes, so that goes back decades also. like my faith, Christianity has actually helped me a lot, from being the overweight teenager, just believing that there was something a higher calling for myself. Again, grew up in a small town, like very humble beginnings, just to actually think one that I could become a physician, not having that actual role model in my life, and then two, knowing that my journey over time is actually now a testimony for other people to know that it actually works. It is not just something I read in a book, it's actually something that I have experienced over the past 3 decades. And then also to go deeper, that stress is another part of our stress management, I should say, is another pillar in lifestyle medicine that we really have to hone in on. And every day we're bombarded with so much outside noise, that my faith anchors me, and like reading the word, praying, meditating actually helps decrease that stress overall, to actually decrease those excess hormones that go on in the body that actually contributes to inflammation. And then also use that for other people that believe in the same faith as a way for them to look at their body differently. I say, we read that our body is a temple, but would you go to a temple or a sacred place with trash and just throw it all around? No, you would not. You would actually look at it more differently. You would want to clean that up. And that's the same thing that we have to look at for our arteries, is if we're like eating chips and fried foods and processed foods all the time, of what that's doing, that's actually throwing trash into this temple. And again, it's not a judgment thing, because it's a journey. I'm not perfect with it either, but it just reminds me of what I'm doing, and to just kind of encourage others along the way. And that to know that a love for yourself is actually showing your body love by actually feeding it the right foods, exercising, getting them a proper amount of sleep, decreasing your stress, not putting in toxic substances. All those things actually is paying honor, and actually a form of worship for me to the Lord Almighty. So it's just it's always been a part of me. I just tell people it's like it just intertwined, and just to know that it's always there. It just comes out more as I go deeper into my own faith. It just comes out more and more, because I just see how it actually intertwines with every aspect of our life. Like we know that every aspect of our life is a way to actually honor God and is a form of worship.
That's so beautiful. I love your perspective on that, and I completely agree with you. It's like your body is a temple, so how are you going to fill it? Are you going to fill it with good things, or are you going to fill it with trash? And honestly, the choice is yours. Nobody's going to do it for you. No one's going to force you to eat things that you don't want to eat or do things you don't want to do, but the choice is yours. So, are you going to fill it with good things or trash. So I love how you explain that. If you had to give three simple faith aligned principles for living a healthier life, what would they be?
So, faith aligned principles again, our body is a temple. So, you want to treat your body as such. To know that God delights in every detail of your life. So, even when you are not feeling well, when you have chronic illnesses, like He does not want your body to be full of illness. And He wants you to actually live out your purpose by actually taking care of your body so that you have the energy to actually care for others. And then to know that, oh my goodness, my verse this left me that he has plans for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. That is my anchoring verse in Jeremiah 29:11. So to know that when you're actually going out and doing things, you don't want to harm yourself because God does not want you harmed. And again, different aspects of lifestyle medicine you can look at to actually, is this bringing you harm, not just with nutrition. So I could bring in the other things that, and I always hate to use this analogy, but I have to use it when we're sitting here. But like sitting, if you're sitting all day and you're not moving your body, that is a form of not actually paying honor and actually causing harm to yourself because we were meant to move. So that's where the exercise actually comes in and plays a huge role in our lifestyle and actually giving a form of worship also. So there's so many other verses that I could probably go through it. I was like, I'm trying to remember them all. But sometimes when you're put on the spot, you're like, your mind goes blank. But those would be three that usually always come to mind. But I actually use those, and I have like papers somewhere, yeah, that usually say, okay, these are the scriptures. And like when someone has a specific issue that they're going through, it's usually a verse that I can like always look up, and I'm like, okay, this is the verse you're going to meditate on to help you through this day and in your journey. That's another way that I use my faith in my practice of in coaching services also, is to actually find verses for women that will inspire them and motivate them, that are of the same faith that they can actually meditate on for their journey.
I love that so much. It's so needed because I think a lot of times people think like lifestyle is one thing and then spiritual or faith is another thing, but it's like, no, they're combined and they're connected. And when you connect the dots with scriptures and verses based on what you're going through in that moment, it's like everything changes. I love Jeremiah 29:11. That was been an anchor of mine for a while too. I love that. Or Galatians 6:9 has been a really big popular one for myself. It's don't grow weary in well doing, because in due time you'll reap your harvest if you don't give up. So I
Yes,
love,
that's good. That's good.
yes. If you go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. I cut you off.
No, like what you said, you said another verse, but then that like threw me into a different thing where I was thinking of like reading a book now, which we know it, but we don't necessarily know it. Like, so we are a spiritual being in a physical body, right? And so when we don't take care of the physical body, which the spiritual being is in, then we have to leave where this physical body, reigns, which is on earth. So sometimes when people look at it that way, they're like, oh, I know that I'm a spirit and I'm, made in God's image. But if I don't take care of this human body, then it's not of actual good for God, because He wants us here to help other humans to actually bring them into the fold. So I just wanted to mention that for people, like that's why they're interconnected, because we're a spirit in a physical body. So we got to keep going.
Absolutely. It's so beautiful. If you can leave the listeners with one powerful message about faith, health, and purpose, what would it be?
One thing and all that.
If you have more, feel free.
My goodness. Oh, well, I would guess it would have to be wrapped up in your body's a temple. You have to treat it as such, because that wraps up everything with, lifestyle, faith, and motivation. But I always usually like to leave people with one, that you cannot out exercise a bad diet. So that was huge for me. That was a life-changing statement that when I was learning about nutrition, that a physician actually mentioned. Again, that goes back to the number on the scale looks a certain way, but your insides are not actually as good. And then your body's a temple, treated as such. would be coming up next. So and then always, sorry, add in more and more plants to your diet. So crowd out the bad with the good. So don't think of it as giving up food, thinking of adding in more food. Everyone likes to add to things. So add in more fiber rich vegetables, fiber rich foods to your diet every single day and just see how much impact it makes for your overall just feeling good first and then go on to actually heal those chronic illnesses in your body.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. What does one last question. What does it mean for you to be nourished inside out?
To be nourished inside out. At this point in time, it would be to actually feed my spirit with the word of God. Because once I have, really honed in on doing that, it's really helped me to then learn how to express the love of God to others. And actually, in today, I do I'm in a daily prayer group, and today we're studying about love. And if you have everything else that's going on, even the good deeds of this world, which you have not loved, you have nothing. And so, actually, learning to love as God is love, that actually nourishes me from the inside out. So, if I can actually be loved to others, then this world will be a totally different place.
Wow, so beautiful. And where can people stay in touch with you and where can people support you and your work?
So I just point people to my website is www.dramandamd.com. And you can reach me in the social medias and YouTube channel, but you can all find everything from my website and just go from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed talking to you today.
Yes.